And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
There's something primal about the fear of invasion. Not just war, invasion. The violation of home, the shattering of safety, the realization that you are no longer the apex. In 1953, George Pal brought H.G. Wells's Nightmare to Technicolor life. And what emerged wasn't just a monster movie. It was a vision of annihilation so vivid, so merciless, that audiences fled theaters in panic. The Martian war machines didn't stomp or roar. They glided, silent, elegant, unstoppable. Their heat rays didn't just destroy buildings. They erased them, vaporized them into smoldering ash and twisted metal. And beneath those pulsing swan-necked machines, humanity didn't stand and fight with courage. They ran, they prayed, they died. This wasn't science fiction. This was prophecy wrapped in celluloid. And the story behind its creation is just as strange as the invasion itself. Number 13. The film was originally going to be set in Victorian England. George Pal had a problem. H.G. Wells' original novel took place in 1898. Horse-drawn carriages, cobblestones, gas lamps flickering in the London fog. But this was 1953. The atomic age, the Cold War. The world had just learned what real annihilation looked like, and it didn't involve cavalry charges. So Pal made a radical choice. Transplant the entire invasion to modern-day Southern California. Suddenly, the Martians weren't terrorizing Victorian gentlemen in top hats. They were incinerating American suburbs, farmhouses, churches. The familiar became the battlefield. And that proximity, that sense of this could be us right now, turned a period piece into a living nightmare. That single decision changed everything. Number 12. The Martian war machines were inspired by manta rays. When production designer Al Nozaki sat down to reimagine Wells' tripod war machines, he faced an impossible task. How do you make alien technology feel truly alien, not just futuristic, otherworldly? He found his answer underwater. The Martian machines in the film don't walk. They float, suspended on invisible force beams, their cobra-like necks scanning for prey. Their bodies are sleek, curved, almost organic. Nozaki based the design on manta rays gliding through an ocean of air. The result was hypnotic, beautiful, terrifying. These weren't machines, they were predators. Number 11. The heat ray sound was created using 3 electric guitars played backwards. Every iconic sci-fi film has one sound that burrows into your brain and never leaves. For War of the Worlds, it was the heat ray, that rising electronic shriek, like metal screaming as it's torn apart at the atomic level. Sound designer Harry Lindgren didn't have synthesizers. He had ingenuity. He recorded 3 electric guitars played simultaneously, then ran the tape backwards at varying speeds. The result was that otherworldly wail, part musical note, part death cry. Once you hear it, you never forget it. That sound became the voice of extinction. Number 10. Gene Barry wasn't supposed to be the star. Gene Barry, who played Dr. Clayton Forrester, was a television actor, handsome, capable, but hardly a movie star. He wasn't George Pal's first choice or his second. The role was written for a bigger name, someone with box office pull. But scheduling conflicts and budget constraints narrowed the options. Barry screen-tested. He had the intelligence, the everyman quality Pal needed. Someone who looked like he could explain nuclear physics, but also run for his life. It worked. Barry's performance grounded the chaos. He wasn't a hero, he was a survivor. And in 1953, that's what resonated. The idea that when the Martians come, even the smartest among us are just trying not to die. Number 9. The film cost $2 million, a fortune in 1953. $2 million doesn't sound like much now, but in 1953, it was astronomical. Paramount executives sweated. This was a massive gamble on an unproven genre. Science fiction was still pulp magazines and cheap serials, not prestige pictures. George Pal had earned some trust with Destination Moon and When Worlds Collide, but War of the Worlds was different, bigger, more ambitious. The budget ballooned as Pal insisted on cutting-edge effects, elaborate miniatures, and that Technicolor palette that made every explosion look like the end of days. The risk paid off. The film earned $2 million in its first week alone. Number 8. The Cobra-like Martian eye was operated by a single puppeteer. The most terrifying moment in the film isn't an explosion. It's quiet, intimate. A Martian probe extends into a farmhouse, its glowing three-eyed sensor sweeping the darkness. It finds Anne Robinson's character, pauses, studies her. That probe was a practical puppet, controlled by veteran puppeteer Harry Walton. Every movement, the slow pan, the sudden focus, the alien intelligence behind the lens was Walton's artistry. He made a piece of metal and colored lights feel sentient. When that probe's hand reaches out and touches Anne Robinson's shoulder, audiences screamed. Not because it attacked, because it noticed. If you're still here, you understand. You get why this film matters, why its images still haunt us 70 years later. If you want more deep dives into the classics that terrified, thrilled, and changed cinema forever, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. Now, back to the invasion. Number 7. The church scene was almost cut by the studio. There's a moment late in the film where Dr. Forrester takes refuge in a church. Outside, the Martian war machines methodically erase Los Angeles. Inside, he finds a pastor praying among the pews. Forrester asks if God can save them now. The pastor has no answer. Paramount executives hated this scene. Too dark, too nihilistic. Americans in 1953 didn't want to see clergy paralyzed by doubt while the world burned. But George Paul fought for it. He understood something crucial. The film's power came from stripping away every illusion of safety. Military might fails, science fails, even faith wavers. The scene stayed, and it remains one of the most haunting moments in science fiction cinema. Number 6. The Martians were never fully shown on purpose. We see glimpses, a three-fingered hand, a leathery shoulder, that pulsing, veined head with its unblinking eyes. But George Paul made a deliberate choice. Never show the Martians in full. Keep them fractured, incomplete, half-glimpsed nightmares. This wasn't a budget limitation, it was psychological warfare. The human brain fills in blanks with its own worst fears. By denying audiences a clear look, Paul ensured every viewer saw a slightly different monster, their own personal demon. Sometimes the scariest thing about evil is how little you see of it before it destroys you. Number 5. The film predicted modern drone warfare. Watch the Martian machines hunt. They don't charge. They hover, scan, and eliminate with surgical precision. They operate with cold, calculated efficiency. No anger, no malice, just function. In 1953, this was pure science fiction. Today, it's Tuesday. The way those war machines glide over cities, their sensors sweeping for targets, their weapons firing with emotionless accuracy, George Paul and his team accidentally predicted the future of warfare. Autonomous, remote, impersonal. The Martians don't hate us, we're just in the way. And that's somehow more terrifying than rage. Number 4. Anne Robinson suffered real burns during filming. The destruction in War of the Worlds wasn't just convincing, it was dangerous. Explosions were practical, fires were real, and Anne Robinson, playing Sylvia Van Buren, was in the middle of it. During the farmhouse destruction sequence, a pyrotechnic effect went wrong. Robinson was too close to a blast that erupted ahead of schedule. She suffered minor burns on her arm and face. Production shut down for 2 days while she recovered. She came back and finished the scene. The fear in her eyes during those moments, not all of it was acting. Number 3. The film won the Academy Award for Best Special Effects. In 1954, War of the Worlds took home the Oscar for Best Special Effects. It beat Disney's The Living Desert and MGM's The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The Academy recognized what audiences already knew. They had witnessed something revolutionary. The miniature work, the matte paintings, the animation of the heat rays, every technical element pushed the boundaries of what was possible. For years afterward, filmmakers studied Paul's techniques. The film became a textbook, but here's the twist. Some of those groundbreaking effects were so dangerous and experimental, the crew refused to attempt them again. They knew they'd gotten lucky. One wrong calculation, and the entire miniature city, and possibly the soundstage, could have gone up in flames. They captured magic once, and they knew better than to chase it twice. Number 2. H.G. Wells' son consulted on the film and hated the ending. Frank Wells, H.G.'s son, served as a consultant during production. He approved the modernization. He praised the design work. But when he saw the final cut, one element enraged him: the ending. In both the novel and film, the Martians are defeated not by human weapons, but by Earth's bacteria, microorganisms, the smallest, most invisible defenders. But the film adds something the book doesn't: a heavy religious overtone, churches, prayers, the suggestion that divine intervention played a role. Frank Wells felt this undermined his father's point. H.G. Wells was writing about evolution, adaptation, the humbling truth that humanity's dominance is accidental and fragile. The film's spiritual framing felt like a betrayal. George Paul defended the choice. He believed 1953 audiences needed hope, not just survival through accident. The debate was never resolved. Frank Wells never watched the film again. Number 1. The film was released during the peak of nuclear anxiety. August 13, 1953. War of the Worlds premiered in theaters across America. Just months earlier, the Soviet Union had detonated its first hydrogen bomb. The arms race was accelerating. Civil defense drills taught children to hide under desks. Fallout shelters were becoming backyard fixtures. When audiences watched Los Angeles vaporized on screen, they weren't just watching fiction. They were watching a preview. The heat rays looked uncomfortably like nuclear blasts. The mass evacuations mirrored civil defense plan. The helplessness, the chaos, the realization that nowhere was safe. It was all too familiar. George Paul captured the existential dread of an entire generation and wrapped it in Technicolor and flying saucers. The film succeeded, not despite the atomic anxiety, but because of it. It gave shape to formless fear. It showed the nightmare, and then crucially, it showed survival. Even if that survival was arbitrary, even if it came from the smallest, most overlooked forces of nature, even if we didn't deserve it. War of the Worlds remains a masterpiece, not because of its effects, though they are stunning, but because of its honesty. It doesn't give us heroes who save the day with courage and ingenuity. It gives us people who run, who hide, who pray, and who live only because something invisible fought for them. That lack of control, that cosmic humility, is what makes the film endure. We like to believe we're the masters of our world. War of the Worlds reminds us we're just lucky guests. The Martian war machines may be fiction, but the fear they represent, the sudden, overwhelming invasion that strips away every illusion of safety, that's timeless. It's why we still watch. Why we still feel that chill when the heat ray charges. Why we still look up at the sky and wonder. So here's the question. If the invasion came tomorrow, if those machines descended on your city with their silent grace and merciless purpose, what would you do? Would you fight, run, pray? Or would you just watch the world burn and hope that somewhere, somehow, the smallest things are on your side? Let me know in the comments and keep watching the skies.